Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 116 of the Toonami Escape Podcast. I'm Greg Zeno. Tonight we have B-Dubs,
Hello.
C. Kohler,
Hey guys.
and because it's a ranking episode, it's Seda.
Are we recording?
Yes.
Cool.
No, he just says that from time to time.
I can't.
Sometimes I go into my opening spiel, but it's actually not recording yet.
I was just making sure.
It has happened before.
I've also teased B-Dubs by being like, hey, we've been live! And B-Dubs like, no!
Because sometimes I say stuff I'm not supposed to.
Anyway, this is episode 116, which I already said.
Yes.
Was there news?
I don't think so.
We get a new
No.
promo,
Lineup.
lineup promo.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
It's good.
Yeah.
This lineup is going to be really, really good.
It's going to be interesting.
Especially once Alternative gets in there.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, alternative is at least better than progressive.
I still have high hopes.
I mean, the first episode looked pretty good.
It looks better, at least the
Yeah.
first episode, and I think just the subject material seems more interesting. Like even from even before you knew anything about either series, I don't know, like a group of friends in in high school is a little bit more interesting, just potentially than some shut-in middle school girl that hates everything, or wants it to be ended or whatever she said.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think the problem was she didn't really want anything, so she was kind of way too passive. But
I mean, I guess that was kind of the point, but it's still just
Yeah.
I don't think they really did it. They didn't really do much with it.
yeah,
Anyways, we're not here to discuss progressive again.
no.
I think I liked the first episode of Alternative the best out of all the new Fully Cooley episodes we've seen.
I will agree with this.
But anyway, since there's no news, we can go right into Dragon Ball Super. Dragon Ball Super episode 75, Goku and Krillin, back to the old familiar training ground. In this episode, Goku is training because that's literally all he does forever and ever and ever.
Well, I mean, he goes farming sometimes
Why is their farm on a cliff?
because Goku.
Land is cheap.
I mean,
I think I know why their farms struggle so bad. It's because they're farming on a fucking cliff.
Well, they can't afford anything else.
Well, I mean, they're farming on a giant plateau. What do you want? And it's all rocky because Goku keeps breaking it.
That soil cannot be good. The water just goes down.
Yeah.
I don't think it was like that last time we saw it either.
It was probably worse.
I mean,
Or
I think it was
better.
just like they were on a plains. It wasn't on a hilltop.
Well, I mean, it does look like a giant plateau that they're on. So, maybe they were closer to the center at the time. And maybe it's nicer there.
They're probably not too worried about being especially consistent of the landscape around their farm that they go to.
No, I mean, I really doubt they give a shit. Or maybe Goku owns multiple pieces of land.
That is not possible.
Well, I mean, Ox King had, lots of places.
Well, Goku and his family are dirt poor.
Wait, didn't Mr. Satan give him a bunch of money at the beginning of Super?
I think
Yeah.
so.
I mean, we have to assume that's the only way they're getting by is they get some handouts from Mr. Satan and maybe from Chi-Chi's dad if he has anything still.
I also
Yeah.
assume Chi-Chi just takes that all and directly deposits it into a college fund.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think she'd deposit most of it into college fund, but I think she'd be a smart investor too.
Apparently not.
Well, yeah, I mean, you would think she would, given how, nobody works, but, whatever.
So basically, he decides he's got to train somewhere.
Yeah.
And so
Wait, doesn't he have that fight with Gohan in the opening?
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
He called him a goober.
Well, he dressed up as Great Saiyan Man for no reason.
Goten called him a goober, I think, right?
Yes.
Like, I doubt that's what he called them in Japanese, but that's a perfectly suitable translation, no matter what you say.
No, it must be direct, dry-ass, direct translation of the Japanese line, complete with honorifics.
Gohan-san, Gooba!
And do not translate Nakama ever. It's magical moon rune word.
But anyways, this fight actually had like pretty decent animation for this series. Like not like the heights maybe of the Zamasu stuff, but it was like for a filler episode, it was like, hey, this is actually somewhat more interesting than what we would normally get for a Dragon Ball Z, fight. So it was just a little bit. It was pretty good.
I like that we continue to call these things filler episodes.
Yeah, I know.
Because it's like there's no reason to say that, but like it feels like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like this episode and the next one are kind of the last of those fillery episodes.
I think just filler is just an easy word to say rather than like in between storyline arc episode.
Yeah, transition episode or something.
Spinning episodes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be completely honest. There's a couple of episodes in the middle of the next arc that I'd consider filler that, are still part of the arc proper.
Stalling time.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel a lot like, we have to pad out this character's moveset for Fighter Z or something.
Basically.
Yeah.
So he goes off to find Krillin, who's still a cop, and somehow Krillin, you actually think maybe the Z fighters could just block bullets with their bear skin?
Yeah, I mean,
Somebody's got a low humming going on.
I think that's my second.
I think they have to be like focused to, block bullets with their bare skin.
I'm just saying Krillin really has let himself go, as 18 so bluntly tells him.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Both 18 and Marin are basically dissing on him in that scene.
Even Marin was like, I want my dad or my papa or whatever she said to be strong.
Yeah.
Not
he's the strongest human.
Well, human isn't good enough anymore.
I also like how Goku is Uncle Goku to Marin. Just adopted uncle. It's kind of cute.
18 continues to be like the best female character in the series because she's also like she very well balances the role of being like mother and housewife, but also like a badass. So she's like, what? Did I marry a freaking wimp? And it's like she's just basically like just trying to get him motivated to train again. Like every other female wife character in this series is like, why aren't you at home? And she's like, get out there and be a badass.
Yeah, she definitely like maintained, at least largely maintained her personality, even if she doesn't get like a ton of spotlight.
Yeah.
Like that's still refreshing compared to, Chi-Chi, who's become a little bit one note a little bit. And Videl, who's become really, she had that moment, like that tiny moment of trust, I guess, in Gohan, but still was pretty plain compared to what she was as a high school student. So it's refreshing.
She should have punched that Barry guy in the face, but she didn't do that.
Yeah.
I liked, I don't think you guys talked about this maybe, but like when Videl like flew in that one episode, like that alone was just like enough for some people. Like, wow, they actually remembered that Videl can fly. Like that's our bar where it is now. Is like just remembering that she could fly is almost refreshing.
Yeah.
Videl remembered that she can fly.
It's just one of those things that it's like, come on, super writers. And I don't know. Apparently, the stretch we're on now from like, I kept at some point in the Zamas arc to some point in the next arc, one of the best writers in the series, like in series history, is on the show. So, it definitely shows.
So anyway, they go off to Master Roshi's place, and then I was looking at my computer while Goku was in a turtle costume, so I completely missed what that was about.
It was. Well, I mean,
It's a
Krillin
handicap.
can die to like one hit. You know, gotta make it even somehow.
There's also this like there's also the jokes like Krillin it kind of worked in both ways. In order for to have Master Roshi like train them, even though he's not actually like training them, they like bribed him with a magazine. And then Roshi said like, if you find this flower, is that the word they had to like look for?
This herb.
Or an herb or whatever herb. Like I'm gonna give you another one of my special magazines. Because that's what Master Roshi is.
Well,
now.
he said he offered them a magazine first, and they were like, "We don't care about your dirty magazines." And then he said, "Well, okay, then I'll give you like a special technique,
a special power." It was like a power up, like
something like that, yeah.
Hidden power, which is very likely bullshit.
And then they went off, and they somehow found the Jedi training cave on Dagobah, because all of the bad guys just started appearing,
including this dude from, I'm assuming, Dragon Ball.
Yeah, it probably was.
I actually, like you, I actually missed that part. So I saw people on the thread saying like, "Who is that guy?" I'm like, what guy?
He must be from Dragon Ball.
Apparently, this lizard-looking dude is named Tambourine, and I guess he killed Krillin the first time Krillin ever died.
How many times has Krillin died? Like 4?
Enough.
Twice.
Like Tambourine, Frieza.
I want to say 3.
Boo.
Oh yeah, Boo killed him.
Right.
Hang on.
Maybe
Tambourine, Frieza.
No, it can't be.
Boo.
It can't be 4 because he can only have died once in Dragon Ball.
Yes, and then when Frieza killed him the second time, they thought they couldn't bring him back, but they could because of rules. They just throw the rules out. And then he later died to Boo. I don't think Cell ever killed him.
Yeah, Cell never killed him.
So he's at least died 3 times.
Okay, he's had the 3 deaths. I mean, that's pretty good.
Anyways.
Now, if you add future Trunks timeline, Krillin, then
Oh no, that poor bastard.
well, then that guy died. Well, that guy also only died 3 times.
Yeah, I know, but he stayed dead the last time.
That's also probably like the best running gag of the Team 4-Star adaptation is the Krillin owned count. Like not just his deaths, but just every time he's owned.
Yeah, the actual counter is something they kind of like look back on and they're like, yeah,
That was a good idea.
it was no. They think it was not a good idea.
Really?
I thought it was a pretty funny just
I
running
like
gag
it.
that doesn't take a lot of time or space. Just I don't know.
So
I mean,
of
it's
why
a pretty
like I
good
think
laugh.
like last year or 2 years ago, something like that, they kind of held their like send us your abridged thing contest, and they also at the end they also had like here's the worst one we got, and they played their first episode.
Huh.
Basically as like, yeah, look, when you go look back on it, a lot of this stuff is bad.
Yeah, I think the counter was one of the few redeeming qualities from that episode, though.
I mean, they specifically point out the counter. At least one
Really?
of them was just. At least one of them is just like, no, it's a great idea. Shut up.
I mean, that one is probably the only really good. Like Goku's like, "Are you a Yoshi?" Is, but I like the counter.
I think most like comedy series like that or whatever you want to call it are gonna, it takes them a couple of episodes to find their footing.
Yeah,
It took them like a season to find their footing.
Right.
yeah. I mean, basically, by the time they reached, Goku versus Vegeta, it got way better.
And well,
Anyways.
I'm more talking about it took them till like the middle of the Namek arc for them to figure out what the good stuff actually is.
Yeah, I mean, it started getting better around Goku Vegeta, and then it just kept getting better after that until, I want to say, the Ginyu Force showed up, and then it just sort of stayed really
Was
consistently good. Yeah.
But no,
Anyways.
that first episode has a MySpace joke in it. If you want to date it.
Yep.
That did
It's old.
not age well. I actually remember watching that first episode in, like, high school.
Right.
I was like a senior.
I think I was a little older than you. I think I was like an undergrad, like a freshman or something. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I
Super
think
Kami
you're...
Guru, the Super Kami Guru running gag was before I graduated high school.
mhm.
How old are you?
I'm 25.
Wait,
Anyway,
how long ago was Frieza? I feel like it wasn't that long ago.
it was a while ago, dude. The episodes have they've been spending
Yeah,
longer and longer periods of time on episodes.
I know,
Now like over a year since the last one.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Well, I know.
the Cell ones are coming really soon.
Yeah, but weren't they like supposed to be coming out like January this year?
Something like that.
It is now August.
Yeah.
Well, that's a tangent.
Well, on the bright side, their development schedule is better than Square Enix's.
It is.
Because, I mean, look how long 15 took them. And then look how long Kingdom Hearts took. It's like Kingdom Hearts 2 was on PS2.
No, that's a different thing because they kept making other Kingdom Hearts games in the meantime.
Well, yeah, I know. But none of them were like, you know.
Well, even then, Kingdom Hearts 3 was announced in 2013, and it's going to come out in 2019.
Jesus.
Yeah, like it was slated to be a PS3 game, and now it's coming out for PS4.
It's coming out. It's going to be one of the PS4 swan songs at this point.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically going to be that
Ghost
Resident Evil
Tsushima.
2 remake. Yeah.
This time next year, we're probably going to know that there's new consoles coming for definitively.
When Kingdom Hearts 3 was announced, the Toonami lineup was Bleach, Naruto, the original, One Piece, Soul Eater, IGPX, Eureka 7.
So, like, the second major lineup.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
That was my attempt to get things back on topic.
Too late. Anyway, I think we're done with Super. Because we're trying to find other things to talk about other than Super.
I mean, not a lot of stuff happened in this episode of Super.
There's
there's the follow-up episode coming up, and then are we in the next arc then, or is there?
Yeah, no, like the next arc is after the next episode.
Okay, so we're just basically one episode away in a sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can't wait. It's gonna be long.
Oh, it's what is it, like a year and a half? A year?
Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Chimera Ant arc long, but not quite as good.
Anyway, shall we talk about MHA?
Okay.
My Hero Academia, episode 14. That's the idea, Ochako. This is the season 2 premiere, which you can tell because there's a new opening.
Yay.
It's fine.
I like it a lot.
I like it in the sense that it's a little different, like in terms of the style. I don't know how you describe it, but it's not so like
serious.
Yeah, it's like a little bit more, poppy
Fun.
or like kind of like happy, cheery, rather than like really cool, amp up your adrenaline type of openings you normally get. And it's not too saccharine or anything like that. It's just kind of a fun opening. It's a little different.
I think it does a better job of like giving all of the characters a bit more presence and showing them like it's kind of like, oh, they're getting ready for this big event, and you see a lot of Class 1A kind of getting ready for it, and it's kind of inspiring in that way.
Mm-hmm. It'll be kind of weird next week for your podcast. You're going to be talking about this show first. So.
Yeah, it's going to be weird.
I completely forgot.
So you know what I think though is I bet we're going to keep this full opening.
Yeah,
Probably.
honestly, I would rather have the full opening of the next opening of Super.
Yeah, no, the next.
Maybe they still will like just have Super be that.
That's
They
the
should.
one rule they've stuck to no matter what.
Yeah.
Only ever
'cause-
the first show.
I would think. All I'm saying is I think Super is the one show that could possibly be the exception.
I mean, I will say that I really like Super's next opening. I feel like it's the best Dragon Ball opening they've done.
So is the
In
next
general.
opening for Dragon Ball Super basically what we have for the rest of the show?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so okay.
As
When
of-
is that?
Awesome.
What was that?
When is that happening?
It
Next
should be
episode.
the episode after next.
So when the next arc starts, we get
Okay.
an opening.
Well, I mean, anyway, I do like this opening a lot. I love this song, and I think the animation works really well with it. And I can't resist. I've seen other future My Hero Academia openings, and they're all pretty good. And so the fact that it's at the beginning of the block and we'll get full openings, I think, is a good thing.
My disappointment in general has been that the show still hasn't had a truly excellent one.
We'll wait and see.
Yeah. They've all been pretty good, but nothing being like, oh my god, I have to watch this opening every time it shows. Anyway, the other reason you know this is a season 2 premiere is that it's half recap, including the lovable classic, hello, person off screen, I'm writing you a letter to describe the entire events of last show.
So what was this episode called again?
That's the idea, Ochako.
It's kind of a weird title because she had like this one moment in the show, in the episode. First of all, she's really excited about the festival.
Which, by the way, bigger than the Olympics.
Yeah.
Sure it is.
She also had that one moment when I've seen this screen capped on Twitter when it first aired, like how she fights for money and how like that's actually I love Ida's like response to that being, that's actually really doing this to fund your passion, to your livelihood is actually really remarkable.
Oh, hey, I have something I agree with you. And I have something really important to talk to about that scene in particular. And I think it's something that's kind of gone under the radar. And then I looked into it out of curiosity and I learned that this is the case. And it's not made clear in the show, at least it hadn't been to me up to this point, is because when she mentioned that, she's like, hey, your power would be really useful. You could float things without using heavy equipment. And I was thinking to myself, but why does she have to get a hero license to do that? And what I found out was, and it kind of hit me by surprise, is that apparently nobody in like society is allowed to use their powers. Like, it's just not allowed. And the only time you can use your powers is either in self-defense or if you have a license to do so, like a hero.
Huh? Like, no, I don't think that was made clear. Like,
no, it's not, and that was like really surprising to me. That's why, like, anyway, I mean, it's just interesting because like you would think that, oh yeah, people are just using their powers all the time, but apparently when you're out in public, you're just not allowed to do it.
Yeah, I think you could probably use them in private.
But
like,
I
we
mean,
know
like,
that his mom uses it at home, like her little floaty power. She'll use that from time to time. But like, apparently, if you're out in public, you're just not allowed. I think it's against the law to use your quirk.
Like, you can't just go up to random cars and start floating them.
I mean, I sort of assumed. I mean, not maybe for any good reason, that like people in society, like not like heroes, but just if you have a quirk that is beneficial to some task, like construction. Or whatever, like people would just use that because it would be efficient to.
I mean, it makes sense.
That would also
like
really
give male people, like if you have super speed, you could be hired as a mail person, like delivering the mail.
To kind of make this even further is that if you remember in the first season, I think in like episode 3 or whatever, when they got their quirk assessment test, Aizawa was telling them, it's like, hey, society still thinks everybody has to be equal, and you're not allowed to use your quirks on these fitness tests. And so that's another example of where you're just not allowed to use your quirk.
Because remember, it's still 20% of people who don't have any at all.
So that you would be like, it would be unfair to them.
Yeah. Also, a lot of people definitely have, like, a lot of people would have quirks that, say, would be very good in the construction industry, but then they would monopolize the construction industry.
Yeah, like if you had our concrete teacher at the school, like he could just build buildings and it'd be easy and he would just corner the market. Yeah.
The motherfucker can just sprout a city whenever he wants.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, it's important to keep that in the back of your mind, I think, because like I agree. I took it completely for granted that they weren't using their powers. And then I did remember that scene from the first season. And I was thinking, why haven't they used their quirks before? And one of the characters is like, wow, we really get to cut loose with our quirks. This is what the hero program's all about. And I never really understood that until now.
That's just weird.
Subtle world building.
Yeah.
I mean, at the same time, it's like, how do you like enforce that?
Well, I mean, I think it's meant to be like, it's like a law, but like, people jaywalk, but I think it's like that. It's like, don't use your powers in public. It's against the law, but you know what? If
people do it anyway,
and it's trivial, then nobody's going to call the cops.
I don't think the show maybe for good reason, has like gone into this, like, or maybe it doesn't even intend to go into this with any sort of specificity. But like this is still a relatively new phenomenon for society, like people having powers, and they're just kind of not sure how to deal with it. And this is sort of what they decided on for now. And it's just kind of this weird, fluid, dynamic thing that everyone's still figuring out. Like, how do we, like there's certainly a potential for these powers to be used for the benefit of everyone. But then, of course, there's the potential for these powers to be used in oppressive, maybe even evil ways, which, like, obviously that'd be like a villain thing.
But it is surprising to me that society as a whole has come to this agreement already that, hey, don't use your powers in public. But at the same time, like you said, it's only been like 80 years, or it's been like 80 years.
It's roughly 80 to 100 years
at
most.
So
and I think this may be a little spoilerish. Not
well,
really.
Be careful.
Not exactly,
Probably.
but I think it's later, maybe stated later a bit, that basically the world kind of stopped when quirks happened, and if they hadn't, the society would probably be at the we're colonizing Mars stage. But instead, it's very clearly like modern day, and that's because there were a good 50 years or so where we were just figuring this superpower shit out.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's not. I wouldn't say that's a spoiler. Like, I don't even know what happens. It's just this weird thing that happening to everyone. It's of course going to affect the course of human development and progress in weird, unexpected, and strange ways.
But it just does feel weird that it's not being taken advantage of to a much larger degree.
I think that's the point, though, is that like it is being taken advantage of by villains. Villains are the ones going out there using their quirks to break the law, and that's why the laws are in place to say don't use your quirks.
Right, but at the same time, it's kind of like, that guy that can sprout a city. It's like you never need to have a homeless person ever again because, you don't really need to have a dearth. You can basically have as much housing as you need to have.
Okay, so you remind me here. First of all, remind me, Mr. Hand Guy villain. What's his name?
Shigaraki.
Okay, and what was his? I remember he had a discussion with All Might, basically saying like he doesn't, for some reason, he doesn't like this idea of a hero.
Oh no, that discussion ended with All Might being like, "You just want to break shit," and him being like, "Yeah, you got me."
Okay, that's what I was trying to remember. Like he had something about like he doesn't like All Might being this like idealistic person that people look up to, and I didn't remember exactly where it went from there. But if it really is just he is evil because he wants to be.
Well, that's not true, but I think. Well,
I was wondering if that all ties into his motive.
The motive thing spiel he had there was mostly bullshit.
Okay.
I mean, they did make a point. Like several characters in this episode made a point to call that guy a man-child.
Yeah.
So anyway, going back to why this episode is called "That's the Idea, Ochako," is because All Might Writes a Letter is not a great episode title.
Well, and we learn. I mean, this. I don't know if this is an arc or if this is just a thing in this episode, but we learn why Ochako is at the school. It's because, like you said, she doesn't want to be a hero to save people. She just needs it for the money. She needs the money to support her family.
Right.
Yeah.
I loved Ida in this episode too. He's more Ida than ever.
He's like one of my favorite characters. Like maybe not a very. He's maybe a bit cartoony in personality. Like, do people actually act like this? But he's just kind of fun in a weird way. So, like, he's super serious about everything. He's not like super smart or anything like that. But he's just like he takes everything so seriously to a ridiculous degree. But he's also like really enthusiastic.
He's like really pure. He's like,
right.
It's like, oh, that's such a noble thing you're doing.
Yeah, and he's very animated with his hands.
Yeah.
So, great voice too.
Also in this episode, in this episode, you already brought it up. A bunch of suit guys have a big discussion about the villain attack.
So was that guy that was talking? Was that the investigator we saw in the previous episode? Was that just some other random guy?
Was it the kind of bland-looking dude with black hair? I think it probably was.
And he has like a trench coat.
Yeah,
like journalist press. Like he kind of looks like stereotypical like press.
He has the hat that makes him look like a stereotypical private eye.
Yeah, or like a stereotypical press hat with the business card or whatever he's sticking out.
Right, yeah.
Joking.
He looks like he's like this weird cross between like a 1930s press guy and like a 1920s like private eye from like a noir film.
Anyways, how long is this season? Is it 24 episodes?
Yeah, this season is 24 is 2 cores.
Okay.
And so is season 3, which we're getting right after it. So, congratulations. We still have a whole year.
And I think it'll still finish before or season 3 will before Super does.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway, so also this episode starts us off on the sports festival arc, which again is bigger than the Olympics.
Well, you know what? Just to curb a little bit of that is, I took that to mean that like in Japan, the UA tournament to Japanese people is bigger than if you were watching the Olympics.
Okay.
Which is not that big a deal, because that's kind of like saying to Americans,
bigger than the Olympics in the
I mean, like the Super Bowl probably pulls in more ratings than any singular Olympic event. Obviously, probably the entirety of the Olympic probably.
Yeah.
That's my point. I think it's like that.
So it's
I don't think the whole world is watching UA. I think in Japan, people are watching UA, and it's more important than the Olympics.
Yeah.
Also, did they not get the rights to say World Cup out loud?
Probably not.
Because I think the World Cup is also bigger than the Olympics.
Well, I mean, the World Cup is basically the biggest sporting event there is, but I think this is kind of like that whole thing with South Korea and like professional gaming. Yeah, with like StarCraft and all that kind of stuff.
The reason they probably used Olympics is because, well, the Olympics is happening in like 2 years there in Japan, so it's like on everyone's mind.
Yeah.
I can also see how it's basically like, hey, you can see actual quirks in the UA Sports Festival, can't see them in the Olympics.
Also, yes, yeah, exactly, and you can't see them in everyday life. This is like a time to go watch people use their quirks.
So basically, it's way more interesting. It actually is way more interesting than the Olympics.
Yep.
Do you want to see a guy run? Let's see this guy shoot explosions everywhere. It's fucking awesome.
There is this kind of weird, like, undertone, especially from, again, I keep going back to that scene from season 1, but, like, Aizawa, and he's sitting there going, it's like, society says you aren't allowed to go to your full potential, you know? And so he was almost, like, in a Batman-y kind of way, being like, it's like, you know, society's got it wrong. Everybody should just be using their quirks all the time. That's kind of what he was saying.
Like, I keep thinking about that, and sort of the state of the world with nobody really being allowed to use their abilities, and sort of how they're in this sort of like modern day situation when they don't really need to be. And I
think what my guess is that they went through something probably happened in the past where everyone was going cut loose with their powers, and it was probably chaos.
Yeah,
and they're like, this is way better.
Yeah,
that is exactly what happened.
It does just feel like they kind of like somebody cut loose with something and it went way too out of control. And instead of saying, okay, well, we need stricter control on this, it's like, well, nobody's going to do anything now. You know, it just kind of feels like they've stagnated for reasons that we don't quite see.
I think the hero program is the answer. It's like, nobody needs to really go crazy with their powers. We've got heroes who will protect us, like the police will protect us. This isn't the Wild West where everyone carries a gun. Instead, nobody carries a gun, and the police carry the guns. That's kind of like...
I would like to point out that while 80% of people do have superpowers, a vast majority of those superpowers are probably very bad.
Yeah, like I can smell your fart from across the room, you know, or something.
I can pull very small objects to me over very short distances.
Yeah. I mean, it just feels like with, you know, some of the quirks we've seen, even the smaller ones, that it's like, well, why the hell aren't you guys like colonizing Mars or some shit right now? Because they could very obviously do it.
I literally brought that up like 5 minutes ago by name.
I know, and it's just
what would be the advantage to colonizing Mars?
Why wouldn't you? You know, it's like, it's kind of like, well, we don't have to cross the ocean, but fuck it, we're going to do it anyway. It just
Look, Elon Musk tried 100 years ago, and it went badly, and nobody wanted to try it again.
I know it. Well, I mean, it just feels like this weird thing where this society is stagnated, and I don't know. I feel like it might become a story arc at
It
some
might,
point later
yeah.
down
I
the
mean,
line.
I'm not disagreeing with you on that, B Dubs. I'm just saying that like the law
Yeah.
to ban public use of quirks, I can see the logic of it.
Oh
That's
no,
all.
I can totally see the logic of it too. It's just one of those things that it's like it very much feels like it's
Maybe too
blatant
far.
setup. Yeah, it does feel like it's going way too far
Well, that's
because
kind of what I think
yeah,
Aizawa was kind of hinting
yeah.
at in his
Aizawa
speech.
goes home and reads Atlas Shrugged.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I mean not like Atlas Shrugged. I'm thinking more like Star Trek or something, where it's like,
Or
oh, everybody works together and we can create a society where there's post scarcity and all that,
and that's when he's like
jazz.
not moonlighting as Batman, basically.
The world
Yeah,
does have this feeling of like this almost utopia that's it's kind of like, man, there's definitely something just not quite right.
yeah, it does feel a lot like this. Hey, this world is pretty good, but we should be able to take it a step further.
But
Um,
it also feels like if we went a bit further, everything would collapse.
I don't know about that, but it's just the world feels like it's in this weird place right now, and I don't see that maintaining all the way through the series.
I don't know about that. That's interesting. You think that? To me, it seems kind of like they've got their shit together. To me, I mean, like seems like a pretty gray world they're living in. But aside from villainy, it seems like hey, people are well fed, and there's
Well,
there's
I
minor
mean,
crime, and I don't
it's
know.
also we haven't seen a lot of the world either.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
I feel like world building is really not the focus yet. Like
right?
there's going to be
Yeah.
some parts there, but I think it is kind of intentionally nebulous at this point. Like
Yeah,
we'll see. So
yeah.
but
I mean,
anyway,
I
the
just
point at
feel like
hand, like the more immediate thing is I guess there's going to be a tournament arc is how people are describing it. It can be a good thing, cannot be a good thing. Some tournament arcs are fine, some are not. It
yeah.
really depends. So
Like if it's dark tournament, then yeah, that's cool. I'm in. If it's like not, then
well, I don't know if it means like if it's going to be like actually like one-on-one fights all the time, or if there's just going to be different skill challenges, or well,
yeah. No, I mean I don't know. I just mean in terms of quality.
right.
Anyway, I believe that was all from this episode.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, let's talk about Pop Team Epic. Pop Team Epic, Episode 7, Hell Shake Yano. In this episode, Hell Shake Yano.
Yeah, this was the best episode of Pop Team Epic so far, by far.
So obviously the main part of this episode was the I don't know what you call it, like the dynamic sketchpad scene where they took it's like this rock star kind of in this routine that is not animated at all, but basically mimed from like two different like staffers moving in these notepads around, and it was actually like really creative. And the dub voice acting is also kind of amusing too. It was like, I don't know how you'd explain it. It's like nothing else is even close to this in terms of anything.
I like this scene at the start where Hell Shake Yano spins around in his chair, but still ends up facing away.
My favorite was like when they had like the close up of his face, and then they like his hair came down over his face, and that was a different piece of paper.
I love that. Like his hair was his own paper, giving it that 3D look to it in a way.
That was really well choreographed and very, very creative.
I wonder how long, like how many, like how often, like I wonder exactly what that takes to like practice that. Like how do you rehearse that? Like make sure you get like, because it wasn't just as simple as just flipping the pages from one to the next. Like the timing and like the orientation and the positioning of like where the notepad is, like that had to take some work to really nail all that.
It's probably one of the most impressive scenes that anything will have this year.
Yeah, it's just like there's nothing else like it. It's literally like uncomparable to anything else we've seen. It didn't like mean anything, but it was just really impressive and interesting.
I mean, I kind of feel like that's what this show kind of wants to be, is like just experimental like that. It's experimental humor.
Mm-hmm. But I did like the dub voice acting. I think it was Ian.
Ian and Chris.
Yeah,
I think the Bob Team Epic.
And all the Bob Team Epic.
A lot of the live action stuff.
Yeah, but I like they're even doing like the guitar sounds. Like I'm not even gonna try to do it here, but it's like it was just amusing, like acting out the sound effects and the wailing. It was fun. Unfortunately, I don't really remember much else from this episode other than that.
It really outshined everything else.
Yeah, I mean that was a good half of the episode. So
well, we got another French thing, and the little twist on this one is that when they showed it the second time, it was subtitled in Japanese.
I don't know if that was
intentional or not.
Honestly, can't tell if they forgot or not.
Yeah, is this a mistake or is this a joke? And it doesn't matter. It can be both.
Right.
Honestly, the French skit was the joke was kind of pretty simple. They're looking at this beautiful French countryside, but actually the weather in France is kind of rainy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually a bus stop.
Yeah.
Well, yep.
I know with Japanese tourists in particular, like it's I guess it's sometimes a culture shock to people when like Paris especially is, it's portrayed as some really romantic ideal city, but then Paris is actually like
not
really, it's pretty urban, like 70% of the population smokes and all that. And like I believe like even like the Japanese embassy in Paris has like not consulting, like therapy almost for tourists who are like need help getting over the shock of that. Anyway, I was just thinking of that when talking about like this idealized vision that they have of France.
Turns out, like most large cities, downtown Paris smells like piss.
What else is new?
I also remember 100% manatee.
Oh, yeah. Pop Team cooking segment.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got, like, at the end, she's playing a mix of a racing / Pokemon game. And she gets so frustrated that she starts, like, cursing and stuff, but then she keeps playing it, and then that ends up being, like, the end theme.
Yeah. That a few weeks ago when they had, like, the neck extending scene, I was like, that's gotta be an Undertale reference. And then this episode has the actual blatant Undertale reference.
Mm-hmm.
Because straight up Mettaton shows up.
Yep. It even had like the applause meter or whatever it was.
Yep. It was the ratings meter, I think.
Yeah, like the viewers. And it was like that is very clearly Mettaton. And it's kind of amusing how Undertale took off in Japan to be memed like that.
Yeah. Also, the Pokemon reference is good.
That music was very close to like it did a very good job emulating Pokemon music without being an actual Pokemon track.
Those are all of the scenes I remember from this episode.
I will say the frustration part with the like sucking at the game and saying like I'm never playing this game again, and then picking up the controller, like that's sort of relatable. It's exaggerated, but
it's one of the most accurate things they've ever said.
Right. I mean, I know some people when they're talking about Pop Team Epic in general, like they seem to qualify it by like, did it make me laugh or not? And if I'm being honest, Pop Team Epic doesn't often make me like actually laugh, but it's just so like bizarre and weird that it's almost just interesting on its own right because of that. And I've said before, I probably wouldn't watch the show on its own, but as a sort of just like filler show in the middle of a cartoon block on TV, like I think I am satisfied with what it is giving me and what I'm getting out of it, even if it doesn't make me laugh, quote. It's just, it's like I don't really think a whole lot about it. It's amusing enough.
I think that its 15-minute format also keeps it from overstaying its welcome.
That's true. I just like I don't take the show that seriously. I guess I don't really take any of these shows that seriously. But it's just like all I really want from a show like this, and it seems to be what it's providing, is just some like absurdity, some maybe black humor, and that's fine. I'm satisfied.
Sometimes I feel like, man, I cannot remember like the vast majority of these skits, and then I'm like, well,
I'm not even sure if that's like necessarily a bad thing. Like, I don't think it has to be memorable. I mean, some scenes might be, or some individual jokes, but if it's just I'm having a bad time describing this. It's just,
well, I mean, it's like if you read a bunch of Pop Team epic comic strips, it's like maybe one or two of them would make you laugh, and the rest are just sort of absorbing. It's just that in video form,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I honestly feel like I don't really care that I don't really remember it. It's fine. It's great in the moment. It's good in the moment.
Yeah, I think I care just as about as much as watching everyone's reactions to this stuff happening as I do about what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, motherfucking JoJo. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Stardust Crusaders, Battle in Egypt, episode 48, Long Journey, Farewell, My Friends. In this episode, it's the finale, and they get some good shit in there.
Yep.
And moving on. No, this finale's pretty good. And also kind of bullshit.
Yeah, I remember watching it, and I actually did rewatch it today before this, and I'm kind of like, how the hell did Dio lose again? Because it's kind of like they hit each other, and then he just explodes, like they ran out of time or something.
What happened was Jotaro figured out how to extend to do the same move.
Right.
But what he did is he hid how long he could do it, and he started using it halfway through when Dio was doing it to him.
Right.
So Dio thought time was up when in fact Dio found himself frozen because now it was Jotaro who was activated his hand.
That part I get. I mean the part after that where Dio actually died.
Basically, he can't destroy Dio, so he destroyed Dio by destroying the stand, which actually destroys Dio completely. And also, he punched him really hard in the left. It's not very satisfying. I've got to be honest.
I mean, it really feels like Dio went down to some bullshit here.
I mean, I don't know. I agree. There was no twist outside of the part I described.
No, that part I liked. It's just that when it ended, it just kind of felt like, oh, well, Jotaro just punched him harder than Dio's stand kicked, and that was how that ended. And I'm kind of like, I just feel like Dio deserved better than that.
It basically requires you to remember that Dio said earlier that his left side heel is weaker than his right side because of his problems with because of rejection from Jonathan's body.
But he got rid of that when he. But he got rid of that when he drank Joseph's blood.
Sure.
Like that was part of the thing. He's like, the rejection will end once I drink his blood, and then he drank his blood, and
Yeah, I mean, it was not super amazing how it finally ended. But let's not forget that Dio dropped a steamroller on him.
No, that was fantastic. I loved that. Like everything up to that.
Over you.
Like everything up to that final thing that beat Dio was, I liked that. It's just how he got beat is kind of like, man, a villain that good deserved better than that.
I don't have so much of a problem with that. I will say I have a little bit of a problem with Joseph somehow coming back to life.
I completely forgive it because the first thing he does is troll his grandson by pretending to be Dio. There is no way he could possibly know this is how he's still alive. There is no way he should be able to know this, but the first thing he fucking does is wake up, and immediately pretend to be Dio.
I think part of this
That I
is
love.
I think part of this is offset for me because some characters actually did die. But that might be like my least favorite storytelling trope is when like a character has some death scene and it's like extremely emotional and dramatic or whatever.
His
and then,
soul left and gave a peace sign to Jotaro.
And then
yeah.
like, you know,
Then they bring him back.
an hour later or whatever.
And then
they have like a happy reunion scene. It kind of feels like having a cake and eating it too. Like you get the drama, you get the happy ending, you get them both, even if they sort of just contradict each other, and it just feels cheap.
Right.
Like, he's not a vampire, is he?
Nope.
No. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's just a normal dude.
I'm pretty sure the
probably
explanation
should
is
be a
just
vampire.
bullshit.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at.
I'm pretty sure Dio had way more people's blood in there.
Yeah. I mean,
Anyway.
he probably should be a vampire at this point, but whatever. It's just, like, I remember the part 2 ending and sort of how that went. I'm like, that is super hype. And then I kind of compare it to this one. I'm like, part 2 ending was better.
To be fair, I'm not sure how you top the part 2 ending.
Yeah,
Like,
that's impossible to top,
Well,
honestly.
well yeah, I know. But
you have to take a different approach, like entirely. So
Yeah,
I
I know.
will say I'm interested to see how like other parts end because obviously there's like 4 more parts or 5 more parts or
Yeah.
whatever.
It just felt like Dio was a bigger threat, and then he just died in such a shitty way.
You know what's not shitty? Them working the thing in there.
The thing.
I had completely, honestly, it was not even on my radar as something I was expecting them to do. But when he said it's high noon, I was like, holy shit.
Okay, at the risk of sounding like an idiot, why is that like a holy shit moment? Like, is it just because Jotaro is based off of Clint Eastwood?
No, it's because Matthew Mercer voices McCree in Overwatch, which is an extremely popular game. And in McCree's special, he says, it's high noon.
So is
like
it basically like a double reference to Jotaro being a Clint Eastwood?
It is absolutely, it is definitely a voice actor gag.
Okay.
Like,
but it's something I did not see coming.
Right.
You know what I didn't see coming? In this show that constantly has all kinds of music, 80s, 90s band and music references, never once did I expect to hear Weird Al Yankovic mentioned.
Yeah.
And when he said that, my love of this show like grew 10 times.
Yeah, I was like, yep, that's a Joseph thing right there. He would know Weird Al.
Yankovic himself posted about this scene on Twitter.
Oh, did he?
That doesn't surprise. What did he say?
I love Weird Al.
I think all he said was stupid crap because that's what Jotaro said. Like, stupid crap like that. So he was just kind of embracing that he was called stupid crap.
I love it.
Anyway, actually, we should talk more about the steamroller scene because that is also, you have probably seen that steamroller scene years and years before you ever saw this show. You just didn't know it was from JoJo.
I remember the
I had no idea that was coming.
I remember the version they did in Team 4-Star with Pui when he dropped the steamroller on Krillin, and Krillin's like, oh, that was weird.
I completely forgot about that.
Dang.
But no, this steamroller scene has been around for a while. It was a GIF based off the SNES game.
So, wait. Is this steamroller scene referencing something, or is this just something Araki pulled out of nowhere? This
is completely JoJo original.
Okay.
Araki decided Dio is going to try to kill Jotaro by crushing him with a steamroller.
Which is very smart. I mean, he's got the time. He went off and got the heaviest fucking thing he could, and then he dropped it on the poor bastard.
It's just so random. You just come, like, it's infamous because the Japanese voice line is amazing. It's just like, road roller. I can't even do it without whispering because if I do, you should right now look up the actual line that was said in Japanese.
Here, hang on. I'll just insert it. Here it is. Okay, that's what it sounds like.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyway,
I have a feeling that's one of those things, kind of like Zawarudo, wouldn't really work in a dub, even though the absurdity of it is one of the reasons why people really attach to it. So like I don't blame that they changed it to a pun. They changed it to "I'm going to roll all over you," which is and it was a fine line and it was delivered fine. But I totally understand people. They say the Japanese version was way better because it's way sillier in a sense, and
Just some of those.
It wouldn't work in any other way.
Just some of those specific Japanese line reads and like actual lines become so mimetic that it's like, well, nothing can possibly beat this.
Yeah.
Anyway, I did not expect Patrick Seats to be able to machine gun those mutas as fast as he did.
I think he wound up doing it faster than the Japanese voice actor did.
No, he did it pretty fast.
I do like that. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, and there's no reason to, but I do like that he is using muta. I mean, I know it's harder to say useless, but like, it doesn't make sense from a dubbing standpoint to use the word muta, but he just did it. So
I think like for the original season, when he said useless, it made more sense there. I think because it wasn't being positioned right next to an aura. Does aura mean anything?
No, it's straight up just like an exclamation.
I think it kind of just makes sense. Like you're already having one character with sort of this nonsense punching shout. You might as well have the person who's like returning the favor also have a nonsense quote punching shout. Exactly. I think it would be a little bit more awkward if one of them was saying aura and one of them was saying useless. Like, I think just having them say two different exotic words at least to English speakers' ears, I think that's probably a contribution to why they decided just to go with muta. Also, it's just a lot easier to say in a position like that.
And it just sounds better when it's being in that context. Useless. Like, I
guess useless may not make as much sense, maybe. And also, just muta is easier to say. Also, the fact that it is it's for all practical purposes a meaningless phrase. I know it's not, but
it doesn't matter.
I guess it's kind of like his catchphrase, though.
Yeah. I guess in the Japanese version he did say "rai" like a couple of times.
It actually sounds more. It actually is more like "ree."
Oh,
can't say that.
I don't remember. Did the first season did he ever actually say that in English or no?
He did it.
I think he said it once, maybe.
No, I don't know. I don't remember.
Anyway,
maybe he did because Warner Brothers.
Anyway,
I have one more like weird observation about this episode. Is at the end when the ambulance comes to save them, you can clearly tell that the ambulance is sent from the Speedwagon Foundation because it says in giant letters Speedwagon. And all the medics have like baseball caps on that say Speedwagon on the front.
Like they're lucky he's rich as hell.
The mysterious secret foundation, the Speedwagon Foundation. It's very secretive.
Everyone knows who it is.
Yeah.
So,
anyway,
if Speedwagon doesn't have any offspring, like who runs the organization now?
A board of governors.
Okay.
And they do exactly what the Joestars say, no matter what.
It was probably
they probably know not to like abuse their finances at all because the Joestars are probably
it's like the Wayne Foundation from Batman, basically.
Yeah, it just Speedwagon probably put something in like the bylaws. It's like if a Joestar comes by and says he needs help, you have to help him, no matter what he needs. Like there's gonna be like part 12, they have to go to Mars, and Speedwagon Foundation's gonna be like, son of a bitch.
I'm just curious, does the Speedwagon Foundation like still exist in like modern JoJo? Like, I mean, I know it's not really like a prevalent thing, but is it just sort of it's just in the background somewhere?
I don't know if you can answer that question because that doesn't like JoJo have like alternate timelines and stuff.
There's like an alternate universe JoJo that they're going through right now.
I had no idea there was
especially a spoiler, but parts 1 through 6 are all the same connected universe, and then parts 7 and on, currently they're up to 8, is basically a soft reboot.
I don't think that's a spoiler because I knew that just through osmosis that it's like separate. I
can say that the Speedwagon Foundation continues to exist up through part 6. Anyway, there's a pretty good sad ending scene at the end.
Olaf goes away.
It's all right.
There was an ending.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to remember what this was.
It was just like
I remember
remembering those who died, and there you saw their faces in the clouds, and
Oh yeah, like I was thinking of like the moment when like Holly woke up and was like all healed. Like that wasn't sad.
It's like, I forgot about you.
Yeah.
No, it's like, remember our friends. Avdol, Concubine, Iggy, Wally.
Wait, which one was Wally?
That wasn't actually in the anime, right? Just the manga.
No,
page?
that's not even real.
Wait, it's not.
No.
No.
Okay.
There is not a character named Wally who
I thought that was like a manga joke or something.
No.
Okay.
That is an edit. It's basically there because in the manga, when Dio is running over people on the sidewalk, one of them is Waldo.
Oh. I'm confused at how these jokes work. Okay.
It's basically the same thing as "Did you lay this egg, Kakyoin?" Anyway, I think the ending theme of Last Train Home really works its best in this episode.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Like, jumping that picture at the end is like, man.
it's really good. I mean, I don't like the fact that in the ending you see a shot of the picture being dropped on the ground when we know it's in his pocket, but
Yeah.
that's a minor complaint. I mean, the overall, just the seeing the journey and their friendship is really what it's all about.
So, it's time to rank this. And because it's a it's because we're ranking it separately from all the other parts. That means C-Kohler, insert the full ranking robot list here.
Okay.
And you just heard the full ranking list given to you by C-Kohler's robot voice.
Yep.
Thank you very much, robot voice. So now we can all see where the current standing list is at, and I would like to start off by saying I think that Stardust Crusaders is better than Phantom Blood.
I can agree with that. I think Phantom Blood had the better ending, but in general, it was probably better. Hello?
Yeah.
We hear you.
Also, we forgot to review it, really.
Forgot to review what?
Oh,
Stardust
right, you're right.
Crusaders.
We forgot to... I actually had stuff for that.
Yeah, don't actually edit that last part out. We actually have to review this show first.
Oh, you mean just like discuss it as a whole?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think Stardust Crusaders is pretty good. There's a lot you could go into with Stardust Crusaders. Basically, like the introduction of stands, the complete shift from what JoJo had been in parts 1 and 2. It works in a lot of ways, but it also kind of doesn't work in a lot of ways.
I think my major complaint, other than like the sheer length of the series, is simply that Jotaro is too cool, almost. It's like I've been actually getting into a lot of old Clint Eastwood westerns and stuff lately, and he's always really cool throughout the movie, but then he always gets high on his own supply, or like he buys into his own hype too much, and then he gets his ass whooped like 2/3 of the way through, and then he's got to clean up whatever mess he accidentally made.
I kind of like Jotaro's personality.
No, I like it too. It's just
in a way, like, how do I put this? When you first see him, and like at a glance, he just looks like too cool for school or whatever.
Yeah.
But like you see glimpses of it throughout, where he seems to be like underneath that like a huge dork.
Right.
And so like it's almost like this face he puts on
right.
to try to appear cool. But like
right.
he seems to be like kind of a softie or kind of a goober.
He's actually a big, soft, dopey
Goober.
mama's boy.
Yeah, it's just that it's one of those things where I kind of would have liked to see him actually fail at some point, just to see what he's got, but he never really does, almost,
I think the reason that Jotaro is this very stoic Clint Eastwood character in this is because I think they wanted to counteract the like bizarre, the last 2 parts were really bizarre, but stands are kind of out there.
Yeah, it is a step beyond, but I do think that the series does suffer a bit for him being so one note.
They wanted him to be the straight man counterpart to all this wacky stando bullshit.
Right. I mean,
Well,
I definitely get that. It's just,
I think it works. I mean, I like Jotaro. There's not a lot to like about him, but like he's always the kind of the grounded character. He's always the one who gets things done. He's dependable. He's also like the kind I like him also because he doesn't put up with people's shit. Like he's just like calls them out on it. And it doesn't matter if you're his best friend or your worst enemy, he'll call you out on your shit. And I like that about him. And let's not forget, like, probably the most popular JoJo character.
Easily.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of like Joseph better.
In
part 2, Joseph.
Overall, like worldwide popularity, it's Jotaro by a country mile.
It's just weird to me.
Jotaro is the definitive JoJo, basically.
We also have to we also had Polnareff, who was oftentimes a stand-in for like the main character, and he has obviously a much more animated, goofy, like big talker type personality.
I mean,
so we sort of have that balance between those two characters having these contrasting personalities. And let's be honest, they both sort of work as main characters in this show. There were a lot of episodes focused on Polnareff.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm actually really surprised that Polnareff survived.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it'd be weird. He's the main character.
Yeah.
I just feel like they could have given Jotaro more to do if they had made him if they had been more willing to be like, oh, he's not so cool and badass, and, have his face bloodied up a bit more.
I think Araki will get into the kind of deeper character studies of main JoJo characters in later parts.
Yeah.
Right now, he's not that ready. I think another major knock against this show is that the supporting cast is pretty weak.
By supporting cast, you mean like Kakuin and Abdal?
I'm specifically singling out Kakuin and Abdal.
Yeah. I like how Abdal, like for a moment, he got like a personality when he was revived, and then he sort of just became the same character again, which is kind of
annoying.
He didn't really have much of a personality.
Kakuin was never anything more than the composed smart kid.
Yeah, but this show has Joseph, and that kind of like makes up for them.
This show has old Joseph who's still trying to be part 2 Joseph, but he just kind of can't anymore.
I mean, but it's also like they do nerf him pretty hard.
Yeah, he gets hit with the do not upstage Jotaro at any point stick.
Yeah, even though he probably could do it a few times throughout the series.
The Alessi thing, especially. If you just switch who fights who in that double kind of like Mariah Alessi thing.
Yeah.
Man.
Oh, that would have been so good. I was talking about it the other day, and I'm like, that is like the biggest missed opportunity in this part.
If you didn't want to be that blatant about it, you could also have basically have Jotaro like actually. You could basically have Joseph win the first Derby fight. Like, bluffs and trickery is like his fucking thing.
Yeah.
Iggy was also in the show.
So this show is clearly more Monster of the Week compared to previous episode or the previous season / 2 parts. And like on one hand, I actually don't really mind that at all. Like some of these individual like encounters
were fun.
Were really fun. But whenever you have these sort of just individual, sort of really disconnected fights, in a sense, is what they end up being is just this encounter with some villain. Some of them are good and some of them are not. And there really is no like there really is no cohesiveness between these parts other than it's just the same characters on a trip to Egypt. So like I do think maybe overall there might have been just maybe a couple too many of these monsters of the week.
And
like,
several of them, especially in the later half, did not need to be 2 episodes.
That's probably true.
Like the sun should not even have been an episode. But like I especially think stuff like the one pretending to be the genie could not really fill out 2 episodes. The High Priestess really could not fill out 2 episodes. Just a bunch of the next part in the manga was longer, but the anime is like an entire core shorter.
That makes sense.
And that kind of tells you all you need to know about the pacing of part 3.
You mean part? Oh, okay.
I'm saying that part 4 in the manga is longer than part 3, but the anime adaptation is like an entire season shorter.
Is part 4 more of a singular plot line, or is it kind of maintain that sort of Monster of the Week sort of thing?
It is definitely still Monster of the Week.
Okay.
I mean, I kind of like Monster of the Week, but to a degree, it's kind of like I'd rather have sort of like the Battle Tendency Phantom Blood sort of more or less have that singular story thing.
Yeah, I don't want to like criticize it like fully for just being Monster of the Week, because I actually really do like that. Like I like that sort of storytelling. Like I don't need it to be all cohesive all the time, but I do think maybe there was just too many like stand users that they had to go through. That there were a couple that
we went through the entire Tarot and the entire Egyptian pantheon.
Yeah. Like when they said like they had like 11 more to fight or whatever, it's like, really? When they got to Egypt, like 11 more. So I do think like I don't mind the structure in itself, but it was dragged out a bit and perhaps maybe a little overstated. Maybe overstated to welcome a little too long. So like I don't mind the structure, but maybe how they approached it. Maybe
I also feel like maybe they could have had more. Sort of like almost mythology type episodes that move along the main plot sprinkled throughout, all the Monster of the Week.
Rather than having Dio kind of like hidden until the very end.
Yeah, I do feel like he was supremely wasted in this part. I don't think the part stand on its own feet without Dio there, sort of like holding it up on his shoulders. Almost.
Part 3, the plot of part 3 kind of only works because it's Dio, and you've seen part 1 already.
Right, like it's the sort of thing that doesn't really stand on its own. Like Dio is dragging that part, kicking and screaming.
You can't like set up a new villain and then not have him show up until the end.
That's very true.
Until the very end, I mean.
I mean, you could. I can see ways to have that work, but it would be more of like a murder mystery thing almost.
Speaking of that, anyway.
Ironically, I have heard that is, but never mind. But yeah, I mean, there are ways to do it, but it's just kind of like I would have liked to see them encounter him a little more throughout the series. Yeah. Because it did feel very sort of pushed all the way to the end.
I wouldn't want them to encounter him constantly because then it's just like it really builds up to like they literally have to go through literally every single other person to get to Dio.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like a little too video gamey, but like at the same time, I don't want it to be like Naraku where he's always popping up as like, I will kill you now, and they're like, oh no, I have a weapon that can kill you. He's like, no, I'm gonna run away.
I was not expecting to get this comparison or discomparison between Naraku and Dio.
Well, I mean, they're kind of like two sides of the same coin. It's like one is massively overused and the other is massively underutilized.
I think there could have been a
balance between the two.
I think the better middle ground was the part is shorter.
That definitely could have, like, if this was 25 episodes instead of 50, and the Dio part was.
If this was even just 30-something.
And I mean, as long as like the Dio part was as lengthy as it was now, I think a 25 to 30, episode thing would work and feel a little bit better. It's just that with the 50, it's like, but
we were pretty entertained most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
we've kind of been dogging. We've kind of been a little bit dogging on this part in this review, but actually, it's still very good.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to like wind up on the bottom or anything. Come on,
absolutely not. In fact, it's basically already very close to the top just by the virtue of being JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Well, let's get to ranking it then.
All right. So we already kind of, I don't know if you're actually going to edit any of that out, but we basically already said that, well, if you want to edit back in the show ranking right here, then you can go ahead and do that.
Okay.
But, yeah. So, Stardust Crusaders.
We should just keep this recording as is.
Yes,
Yeah,
as is.
Yeah, as
completely. Whenever I say edit this thing in, nothing happens.
Exactly.
Just do some
Like
fail
that-
horn or something.
Well, like that's how I assume it is every week. And then, like on occasion, I'll like miss a week, and then I'll listen to it. And I'm like, "Wow, this is really good!" Like I did not realize it sounds like this.
I liked in the last week's podcast how Chris entered the magnet, but that was fun.
I will probably edit this episode, just be clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I think to start off with Stardust Crusaders, I think that it is better than Phantom Blood.
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
think
it's kind of a hard comparison to make because you're comparing like 8 episodes to 48. But
Yeah.
But yeah, I would probably say I liked it more overall. And like looking at the shows below that, I would say
it's better than
JoJo's
those.
I enjoyed more than these overall.
But I would also not put it above Ghost in the Shell.
I thought I was going to have to fight you on this because I like part 2 better than part 3.
Oh,
Yeah,
part 2, the anime version of part 2 is definitely better than part 3, just on the virtue of pacing alone.
I mean,
Yeah.
I was just looking at our list here. We have part 2 at number 10, and we have part 1 at number 14. And yeah, we understand that they are actually the same season, but we decided to split them up.
Yeah.
It's harder to combine them
Right?
because
They are so different.
they're
But
just so
yeah,
different.
I do agree that I think it should probably go in between those two at some place, which actually doesn't, that kind of narrows it down pretty significantly
Yeah.
where we want to place it if we believe it goes in between those two.
So I would say that I think Ghost in the Shell is better than Stardust Crusaders.
I think I would say so too. Overall, I like Ghost in the Shell more than Stardust Crusaders.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like apples and oranges to me, but
yeah, I mean, you're gonna have
production
that.
quality wise, definitely Ghost in the Shell. It definitely brings more, I think, to the table when it comes to being thought provoking. Again, apples and oranges.
Yeah.
JoJo's not meant to be thought provoking, but like I think from an artistic standpoint, there's more art in Ghost in the Shell than there is in Stardust Crusaders. But I think the irony here, though, is that I think I ultimately enjoyed Stardust Crusaders more than Ghost in the Shell. But I will agree with you guys that I think Ghost in the Shell is a better show.
Stardust Crusaders is it's going for pure entertainment, which means you're probably more likely to like actively enjoy it more. But
Yeah.
I think Ghost in the Shell is still, kind of like in the way that, man, I just saw this very extremely sad Oscar-winning movie, and I did not really enjoy it as much as I enjoyed Infinity War, but it's still a way better movie than Infinity War, of course.
Exactly.
So Imperial Bishop isn't here to defend Samurai Jack. So is anyone here
I think-
going to stand up for that?
I think I will, because, like, again, in terms of like pure artistic merit, not season 5, but like the original one, there are like a lot of like really fantastic, amazing, just mind blowing episodes in there that I think sort of reach above what JoJo has done in this part.
What if we got weird and put Stardust Crusaders between Samurai Jack and Samurai Jack Season 5?
I'm completely okay with that.
Just to do it.
Yeah, just to be like, huh?
Like
How do we compare? But the thing Season 5 has the slide in the last 7 episodes.
Yeah, I mean that's why I would say you would put this below Samurai Jack, but above season 5 is kind of where I'm leaning toward right now.
I think I personally put part 3 on top of Samurai Jack.
I don't know that I can.
Like Samurai Jack is also very episodic, and it has some really strong episodes, but there are also some episodes that I don't know.
Yes,
Like,
but
I think
at the same
Samurai Jack has episodes that don't quite hit. I think Stardust Crusaders has 2-parters that don't quite hit.
yeah, and I will also kind of point out that Samurai Jack has won like not the Oscar, but the other
Emmy?
thing.
The Emmy.
Yeah, the Emmy.
JoJo
Yeah.
can't win the Emmy because it's a Japanese television show, but
Right, but even then, I don't think it has anything quite as good as like The Birth of Evil.
Aku versus Dio, who's the better villain?
Oh, that's almost not fair.
Naraku. That's our podcast title: Naraku versus Dio versus Aku.
There it is.
Battle Royale. Okay.
No, the podcast title is just Naraku. It has nothing to do with any of the actual shows we're talking about.
So, anyways, I think. Wait, sorry. I think Stardust Crusaders. It's either going above or below Samurai Jack. Just like now we're at this point where we kind of have to make a final decision here.
Yeah, I think I think the back half slide of season 5. Like
I would not put it above or below Samurai Jack season 5.
No.
Like it's either going to go. Stardust Crusaders sounds like it's either going to go in between our 2 Samurai Jack placements or above them.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much the fairest you can do.
so, B-dubs, you're down for above both.
In between.
No.
Oh, in between. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I am also for in between. Zeta?
I think Chris and I both said we wanted JoJo above him, but it's just I'm thinking to myself here, just thinking aloud. Like,
C-Color, were you...
C-Color's nenever been a huge fan of Samurai Jack.
This is true.
I don't really have a strong opinion, to be honest. I guess I'm with Zeta. I kind of think it ought to be above Samurai Jack just because I enjoyed it more. But then I have this bias against Samurai Jack, so I'm not really a big fan of that show. So I don't know. We have 4 people on this podcast, so we're going to roll a dice or something, or have an elimination round or something.
This is what happens when we don't bring a 5th person on for these.
No, it's
one
fine.
of us can. I mean, I can forfeit my vote, and then you guys win by default.
No.
No.
Yeah, no.
I will say a part of me is just wants to split up the 2 Samurai Jacks just for no reason other than to split them up. Just because it'll be,
I kind of with you. Let's just do that. This isn't the end of the world.
Yeah,
I mean, it's one spot. They're both still in the top 15.
yeah.
You know.
It kind of makes the separation of I don't know.
It kind of makes it like before it was kind of like, well, Samurai, we should consider these 2 separately, but they're fundamentally the same show that
We kind of have to put them together.
I would have to go back and read.
Let's just go ahead and split them up. Let's put JoJo at 13.
Like this kind of justifies us doing it.
Entirely because that's funny.
Yeah. I'm looking at this list and I'm seeing One Piece at 7, and I have second thoughts about that. So I love One Piece, but I don't know, man.
Get ready for my spiel about how high we should move Hunter x Hunter up.
Yeah, there's a lot of rethinking that's going to have to go in when we redo this one day.
Yeah.
I mean, when Hunter x Hunter finishes, like that's going to be a huge argument, I think, as to exactly where it winds up going.
Honestly, I was thinking recently that it would have to require everyone ranking every single show, but we could do like an overall thread list where everyone who wanted to vote would rank every show, and then like, here's the average positioning.
We'd do like what they did with the RPG thing and the anime of the year and all that.
Well, that wouldn't exactly be that, because it wouldn't be like any sort of weighted, like, the of the year threads use like weighted, so like 1 gets 10 points, 2 gets 9, etc. This would have like, this would require every user to rank all 48 shows, so that's not really viable.
Yeah.
But it would go by average placement.
Okay.
Right.
Because everyone would be ranking the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good idea. We should do that someday.
yeah, we should do that. Maybe as a companion to this year's awards.
That sounds like a plan.
It won't really require discussion. We can just reveal the list.
Cool.
Anyway.
All right.
So I think we've settled on Stardust Crusaders being between Samurai Jack and Samurai Jack season, between Samurai Jack and also Samurai Jack.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
puts it at number 13 on our list.
Yes.
which is a pretty good place to be.
Pretty good lucky number.
It's what Dio would want.
I will say, just looking at this list, I'm surprised One Punch Man is so high at 5. But then on the other hand, I guess like One Punch Man kind of sort of exactly satisfied what it went out to do.
It is an
Yeah,
extremely short show that does not have any
It's
like.
just
Yeah, the thing with One Punch Man, it has almost no flaws. in my
But
opinion.
it's not
and then
amazingly
here
good
comes
either.
season 2.
I don't know.
Man, that
kinda-
promo does not instill any kind of.
Well, I mean, they haven't done any like actual animating yet, so
I can't tell if there's no animation in that promo because they haven't done it, or if they're afraid to show it.
no. Apparently, they haven't done it yet because I think the rumor is that I think the rumor is they use like Murata's manga adaptation to sort of like figure out exactly what to do for
They've
the
literally
One Punch
been
Man
waiting
stuff.
for Murata to stop adapting random bullshit and actually move on with the story.
Yeah, like it's close enough to the end of the current arc that they would wind up covering that they can actually start planning an adaptation now.
Basically. Also, literally every single person who worked on the first season is not working on this season,
Except for Murata.
except, and he's not. And he's the person they're adapting from. Anyway, when we get season 2, I fear One Punch Man could drop hard.
But would it actually count as the same show?
Yes, it would.
Except that it's a completely different staff.
Yes, but it's but it is a direct continuation of the exact same story.
True.
And it's not like a decade apart.
Right.
Yeah, it's not a different like format of show entirely like Samurai Jack.
Right. But I mean, I am looking at the list and I am remembering that we're almost done with Hunter x Hunter, and I'm seeing it at 8, and I'm like,
Almost.
how many? Well, I mean, we're in the final arc.
I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. I don't want to go too much into this, but like most of those top 6 or so are pretty spot on for me, but whatever. Anyway,
I feel like one of those top 6, One Punch Man is the one most likely to be like,
Well, what I was gonna say is like it kind of sets out exactly what it sets out to do. It's just a stylish, like bombastic, not very deep, just well animated superhero thing. Like it's not really meant to be anything more than that.
Yeah.
But unless the second season really drags it down and we get that, and then we include that in the rankings.
Unless the second season is exactly the same quality, it almost has to. Because One Punch Man season 1 is such a perfect thing that adding more to it just dilutes it.
I don't know. I think the arc in season 2 is probably better in general. It's just a matter of
Execution.
is the animation is good. Yeah.
It's going to be all about the execution.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we still have 3 shows.
The best 3 shows.
Hey, don't be insulting Black Clover like.
Oh God, where are we going to put Black Clover when that ends?
I know exactly where we're going to put it. I've thought this out completely scientifically.
It's number 50, isn't it?
There's gonna be a couple of shows scraping for the bottom there.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Hunter x Hunter. Hunter x Hunter episode 107, Return and Retire. In this episode, kind of a bunch goes on. First off, Laol and Moral have a big fight.
Mm-hmm. Apparently, Laol stole Moral's friend's stand and is now using it against him.
And
that's his like iPod ability, right?
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think the iPod thing does anything.
I thought it was like he stored abilities in the iPod that he could use temporarily later.
Well, okay, yeah, he stores them in the iPod, but like the headphones thing doesn't actually do anything.
Was that just like how he communicates with his? I didn't really get the headphone bit.
Like, the iPod is basically like the powers are MP3s, and it's the MP3 player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there was also a line about like Moral is saying, I can tell those headphones don't actually do anything, but maybe it's just like a communication device for how Leo talks to other chimera ants. Like I don't even know if that was that important, if it was just some.
I think that
nonsense.
I thought it was that like he plays a song that's the same duration that he can use the power,
Oh, that might be it.
and then he can like when the song's over, then he knows he's the time is up.
Oh, I think that sounds familiar now. Like
That
it's
seems
just
like something they would say once and not tell you again.
Yeah. Or, I mean, he kind of died, so it doesn't really matter.
He did die. So yeah, he breaks out this power that allows him to be a surfer dude and control a bunch of water, which is not the power you would expect from big orange tiger cat dude.
No, it is not.
Just visually, it doesn't quite fit.
Well, I mean, he did steal it.
I mean, yeah, but like if he started throwing fireballs, it'd be like, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfectly aesthetically pleasing.
Honestly, it's pretty good power, though. Like, he flooded that entire thing.
Yes, he did. But Moral has super lungs.
I do like how this show, this arc, has spent a decent amount of time with like Moral and other characters, like giving them a pretty good chunk of the spotlight here. Like we barely have seen, like we haven't seen Gon in like I mean, we maybe saw like a snippet of him like before this episode, but it's been a couple of episodes since we've seen him in Killua, and it's been focused on these other, these other Nen users.
Also, we focused on like these ants, like Leal, that it almost
for a while.
Yeah, it almost feels shocking that he died here because it's like, well, it feels like he should have been bigger than that.
Yeah.
But nope. CO2, motherfucker.
End of the day, he's a dumbass bitch.
I looked up what happens to Cheetu, and it's amazing.
Have you not seen the show after this?
I know extremely broad strokes, but the actual specifics of how Cheetu finally fucks up for reals, I did not know, and it's
oh, it's good.
But yeah, I thought the fight that they had like was pretty good. Maybe not like outstanding, but it was interesting enough. Like it had my attention. I don't really have a whole lot more to say about it.
It was a clever way to kill him.
Yeah, it wasn't just like my power is better than yours or whatever. There was a little bit of thought put into it.
Yeah, it was. Go ahead.
I don't know. It was interesting enough. It was satisfactory.
It felt like this fight kind of came down to Leo like not understanding what the hell his power was. He's like, "Oh, I'll just flood this giant cave and then hang out on the top," and then, Moral's like, "Well, you're gonna suffocate, bitch."
It is kind of amusing that we've seen a couple episodes in a row where like Moral, like when Moral is first introduced, you don't really think much of him. Like just another guy, and he's just got this smoke power. It's like, oh, okay. But like we've seen like his little encounter with Cheetu, and now this encounter here, like he's actually a pretty capable guy. So
I to be honest, I thought this fight was pretty boring. Moral was good in this fight, but I think the problem I had with it is that Leo just did not seem threatening to me at all. I felt like he was just a chump who was. I mean, it's kind of made worse by the fact that he literally doesn't have a power; he just takes others. So, yeah, I didn't. The fact that he's gone is just kind of a relief to me. I didn't really like him as a guy, as an enemy, I guess.
You almost like Cheetu more just because it's like, man, this guy cannot possibly survive the next fuck up, right?
Yeah, and then he somehow does.
Like Leo doesn't kill him because he feels so bad for this idiot.
Yeah. So yeah, Leo's just kind of out of the picture. It makes me happier because it's just one less battle I have to watch because this one just didn't really do anything. Again, Moral or whatever his name is, I like him a lot. He's probably quickly becoming one of my favorite characters on the show because he's just super capable. He's super smart. He is very skilled and strong, and he's like likable.
I also like that he's not just like a young punk. He's like this older middle-aged guy who's just like no nonsense.
In a show where the main protagonists are like 14, it's nice to have this guy around.
And he's not like super old like the chairman guy either. Like he's kind of just, you don't see a character like him very often where he's just like, he doesn't have like even like a fancy outfit or he doesn't even like look that cool. He's just kind of like, he seems like a normal guy, and then He's like very capable and like. I don't
Like-
know. There aren't a lot of characters like that.
Yeah, like he knows what he can do, and he doesn't feel the need to show off or anything.
I also kind of like he's just a little bit. He's just like a little bit like sarcastic, aloof, like just a tad, or he's not like overbearing, but
Mhm.
like the fact that he's just like he's kind of he's a straight shooter. Like to Cheetu, he's just like, you are an idiot. Like, I am not going to sugarcoat it.
You are a complete fucking moron, and I
Like-
honestly feel bad for you.
Like Chitu almost feels like what's his name from Iron Blooded Orphans?
I don't know which
Um,
character you're referring to.
No.
Local man.
Yeah, local.
Yak.
Yeah, he feels a little bit like Eok, except he's not competent enough to fuck anything up for anybody except for himself.
Also,
Where
in
it's-
this episode, we saw,
Palm.
yeah, so like Pan, no, what's her name? Palm.
Palm.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
The other.
she is fucked.
Yeah, Palm's done. She's screwed.
I mean, she like gets there and she sees the men and she's like, man, I ain't dealing with that shit. And then she turns to leave, and then all of a sudden it goes away. She's like, oh, can I go? And it's like, no, there's P2.
Actually, you're fucked.
It's even worse.
Yep. And then the last part of the episode is Killua's finally awake. Woo!
And he needs money.
He needs money.
And he is ripped.
Killua is absolutely.
That is not a body of a 13-year-old.
No, he's got like an 8-pack and holy shit, dude.
It's like a 24-pack.
Killua is 1% body fat,
Seriously.
99% muscle.
Like you look at him in like his normal clothes and stuff, you can be like, oh yeah, he's a normal kid, and then he like his shirt goes off. You're like, what the hell kind of Arnold Schwarzenegger bodybuilding shit is this?
There's also this Octobro character.
Oh, yeah.
I just have to mention, like, he does not look like he belongs in this series.
He looks like he walked out of Bobobo.
Yes, he looks like a joke character in this like super serious show about like people dying left and right, and you got this guy who, yeah, he just looks like a cartoon character.
And there's also a very cartoony like power of friendship moment here. Where he's like, I finally have friends. It was like it almost fell out of place.
Yeah. But he's
Now-
great.
now here's
Octobro
the-
is amazing.
Now, this is maybe just an indictment on my power of perception here, but like he is in the end credits. Was he always there?
I think so.
Like
Yes,
in his little
actually,
hoodie and everything?
He was
Yeah.
always there looking like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like I didn't notice him before, but I actually just wondering, like, is he like important enough to be in
That's
it?
how I knew he was going to stick around, because
Yeah.
like when they first
I knew-
ran
I
that
think I knew the
ending, he was
comedian
there, and
guy.
I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, I knew like the chameleon guy was there, so like it was, I knew, like when he showed up, like I knew he was gonna stick around, but I actually didn't notice the small little octopus dude. But he is there.
Yes,
What's
he
his
is.
name? Chameleon is like Meleon.
His name, yeah, Chameleon is Melorion, and
that's it.
Octobro is Ikalgo.
Oh, that's it. So is he? I wonder, like, how is he going to like contribute going forward here?
Well, I mean, he's got a pretty cool
Emotional
power.
support.
Yeah, I mean, probably. No, but he actually does do some cool stuff.
Cool. Anyway, anyone
I mean,
else have anything more about Hunter x Hunter?
Shit, I can't remember. We didn't see any of the Komugi King stuff today
No.
in this
I
one.
think
No.
next episode is entitled like Gungi, so
It's going to be a lot of board games.
yep. And I'm completely okay with that. So I guess we have to move on to Black Clover. Black Clover, episode 34, Light Magic versus Dark Magic. Hey,
That's
The
actually
good guy
the title of the episode.
the good guy
Ooh.
uses dark magic, and the bad guy uses light magic.
So
Also,
it-
the bad
I'm a
guy.
genius.
Also, the bad guy's name is like literally like some European
Lucifer.
form of light.
His name is Licht. He sucks. I hate him.
Yeah.
He's very boring.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. This wasn't the worst episode of Black Clover. Like, I kind of like the big buff captain guy, if only because he gives so few fucks about anyone.
Yeah, I agree. Like he's kind of like one of the most like he's
The
probably one of
only
the best
likable
characters in the
character.
show. 'Cause he's like
The most tolerable character.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's like not bad. They also introduced chakra. Oh, I'm sorry, spiritual pressure. Oh, I'm sorry, ki in this episode.
Yes.
You see, Japanese magic is different.
Oh
Also-
yeah, that was weird too. They made this like apparently the leader of the Black Bulls is Japanese. Like they really go
How
out of their
does
way to
that
like he
work?
comes from this faraway land. They have like
It
samurai
has this
swords
super
and
cool magical sword that's something mysterious known as a katana.
katana. Yeah, it's like interesting. And everybody and when he landed in like the Clover Kingdom or whatever, everybody was like, "Look at this weirdo."
I liked how his backstory. It was amused that his backstory was like literally he was like lost at sea one day and then he just like found himself on this new shore, a new place, and like that's it. Like he's just been there ever since.
And then he like people made fun of him, and then like his story is that he just beat them up.
Yeah. Like I never bothered trying to get back home. I just found myself at this new land and here I am. That's it.
Just like
I-
Zoro, he got on the wrong ship.
Yep. I kind of like how he was so nonchalant about his story, and then they're like, "This sort of sucks." He's like, "That's my story, bitch." I'm saying that a lot today. Whatever.
Now this has nothing to do with anything, but I started to hear the voice actor Jerry Jewell, his My Hero Academia principal voice coming out of the lick,
Mhm.
and it was like,
Oh, yeah,
I know it's just so funny, like imagining that, like the two totally different characters.
Lick shows up. Hi, it's me, the person you can't tell if he's a rat or a rat or a dog or a bear.
Wait, is he a rat or a dog or a bear?
Yes.
He's a mouse.
Are you sure?
Yep, he's a mouse.
All right.
There was like 10 seconds of like decent looking Sakuga in this episode, and then it was just inserted like during the Yami fight, and the rest of the episode just looked like garbage.
You could tell they like, how do I put this? They tried. So like,
Yeah.
there's this fight with Yami. There was like a lot of like face close-ups, like they
Yeah.
just animate the face with a couple of them with some like effects around it, and then like there'd be like a 2-second clip of like a jump or some rocks moving or something that was well animated. Then it would like zoom in on another face, like. It was, you could tell it was like still being really cheap, and they had just like these little spurts of animation that they just tried to stretch out as much as they could.
I really, I mean, we make a point often on the show to like, point out the like really bad animation in the show. I feel a little bad now having learned this story about how the director of this show or whoever is just like literally having to go on Twitter to find people to help him animate Black Clover.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, someone posted it in the thread.
Yeah,
I
think it
didn't
was
see that.
Bishop. Imperial Bishop was posting these tweets from the guy who works on this show going, "We don't have enough manpower to do this show. Is there anyone out there who's qualified
Holy
who will
shit!
help
That
us?" And it's like, whoa.
Anime
That-
production is fucked.
Yeah.
It seems like it's getting third billing after Boruto and probably Tokyo Ghoul.
Yeah.
Whatever else
Like
they're
on
doing.
that-
Probably.
On that note, like just today, I read something about apparently the director of like Review Starlight is being like on Twitter, like, man, it sure is a miracle that any of these episodes have made it in on time.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty not common thing, but to hear
Yeah.
for someone to go out there and be like publicly be like, we
Come
need
work
help.
for me.
It's kind of like ouch. But like I said, clearly they're able to get like a great animator in periodically to do a scene here and there because they did in this episode.
Yeah.
And I made a joke in the thread that I have to repeat here because I was so proud of it. It was I said that the Sakuga in this episode was so jarring. I now own an entire pantry full of preserves because it goes from like some of the most awful looking animation to something like, wow, it's really great, and then right back to really bad looking stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
Preserves.
Jarring, like
Yeah.
has a double meaning.
Okay.
There you go.
On that note, let's talk. The nun died.
Oh yeah, I
Yep.
actually forgot about that.
Oh, you know what? And they were doing that thing that they did in Naruto too. Like, you know when Naruto always called him Pervy Sage?
Hmm.
Like in this show, the Siscon, whatever that guy is called, he kept calling her like old hag.
Like crawling toward, like, no, don't die, old hag.
Yeah. I care about you, old hag.
No, you don't.
Not at all.
Please die. Anyway, guess we should talk about Naruto.
Mm-hmm.
Naruto Shippuden episode 214, The Burden of Having to Continue to Watch Naruto Shippuden.
Oh boy, guys, that laugh.
I'm
How
a
many
redeemable
times have we-
character!
How many times have we seen that scene where Sasuke leaves the village and Sakura is like crying?
No,
So
how many
many
times have we seen that scene when they give Naruto their food?
That too.
So many times.
Because they just don't have anything else to go to. Like, how do we?
It's like their one bit of character interaction.
It doesn't even like fully support this narrative they're trying to push. It's just like the only thing they can use. So like we have to
Yeah.
somehow manipulate this one scene and to try to convince people that there's something meaningful here that we can draw from.
I just want everyone to remember, just absolutely remember this, that it is 100% canon that Sasuke legit tried to kill Sakura in that episode.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yep. he
Kakashi
did.
straight up says it. He goes, he was going to kill her.
Mm-hmm. And he would know.
He has a Sharingan, so yeah. So yeah, Sasuke, your hero was going to kill Sakura.
Gee, Sasuke, you look kind of cool.
So are we gonna like because we're gonna be getting Boruto soon? Are Naruto spoilers? We just don't care anymore.
Yep, basically.
So I haven't seen or read or whatever the rest of Naruto, but I know some things. I thought it was really amusing in this episode where they like compare Sasuke to Orochimaru, and like both as like both terrible, irredeemable people. Neither of these characters can ever be redeemed.
Nope. And yet,
like they even like made a point to say like they believed in them for so long they just didn't want to let go, even though it's like maybe they should. And these characters maybe have crossed the line, maybe. I'll leave
nope.
it at that.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Man. That's all I got. Just
Oh yeah.
stunned silence.
I will say the show is doing a good job of convincing me that Sasuke is not redeemable.
Yeah.
So, like,
I mean,
I fully expect that this is going to be a tragic end where he just goes out fighting for a poor cause and he'll die, and that's it. That's what's going to happen.
Sasuke?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I will say that like one of the things I did notice in this episode too was like there was a little moment between Sakura and Slippery When Wet, and she's like laying there and she's like, "You're the enemy. Stop saving me. You're the enemy." I'm like, oh god.
they're all so stupid. Like, what is it about Sasuke that makes everybody like him?
I don't know, man. I have no idea. I mean, I get like he was the cool kid in school, and
Yeah.
it's like.
But that kid
Like
never
the cool
stays
kid in
cool.
school who, like, for whatever reason, had a fan base, and then that fan base just never left.
Like, usually the fan bases are like, they grow out of it at some point. You know, they see like, oh, he's not actually that cool. Like, he's actually kind of lame. And in this case, like, he's actually a murderer and, you know, a traitor and a terrorist. And yet,
My mind is trying to come up with some sort of Sasuke is like PewDiePie joke, but I don't think it's going to work.
no.
PewDiePie, but he's a murderer.
But like,
I mean-
maybe
Where they
it's
just
the
have fans for
Sharingan.
no reason.
Maybe it's like the Sharingan thing. Like, it makes the women want him, like,
I mean,
unconditionally.
look, I won't. To be completely fair and serious to the show, like, he's probably handsome. He is cool. He's definitely strong. I think that the true fans probably believe that, he can be redeemed. And so they're just, biding their time and being like, come on, you guys, you can get him. You can change him back. So maybe that's why they still like him. But I mean, like for any average viewer, I think they would watch who would come in onto this show. There's like, this guy's a monster. It's
Yeah.
terrible.
But I mean, again, you have to remember there's people that are like, no, they can redeem Voldemort. It's going to be fine.
Oh, God.
Like there's those guys. So it's like,
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, we had an anime on our block one time that tried to redeem the devil.
Good guy, Satan.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that'll be about it for this episode. Thank you, B-Dubs.
Okay.
Thank you, C. Kohler.
No problem.
Thank you, as always, Seda.
Yep.
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 Mhm.
Yep. We'll see you guys next week. It's a big...
Well, we'll see you guys next week. And before that, don't forget, 10 p.m.
10 p.m.
Oh, 10 p.m.
10 p.m.
We should put...
If you come in at 10:30 and you see Super and you think, I missed nothing, you're wrong.
You wound up missing My Hero Academia.
And from now on, you should not miss My Hero Academia. Anyway, we'll see you all next week for the premieres of both Attack on Titan Season 3 and Diamond is Unbreakable. Man, this Saturday is going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
See you guys then. Later.